Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. So there's a quote that I've been using these last few sessions, and it's learning is experience. Everything else is just information. So I want to welcome you to Design to Disrupt and Reimagine Education. It's the Edupreneur Roundtable. My name is Neferteri Strickland. I'm the founder of Teachers and a Benefit LLC. And we believe that Pennsylvania industry deserves a world-class, Pennsylvania educated workforce. So this month, Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Many people that I told, hey, this is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, they were like, really? Didn't know. It is. Actually, Cybersecurity Awareness Month was initiated in 2004. So 17 years later, we're still creating awareness around cybersecurity education. So less than a week ago, the president signed into law the K-12 Cybersecurity Act. This piece of legislation requires the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure and Security Agency, CISA, to create cybersecurity recommendations and tools for schools to use to defend themselves against threats like ransomware. This piece of legislation is going to increase the number of open job opportunities in cybersecurity. Think about what we know about the open and the need for professionals and how we can get there. So why is this important? According to cyberseek.org, the current estimate of unfulfilled cybersecurity jobs in the US is 464,420 positions. So I am happy to welcome these two gentlemen to the roundtable today, Beau McCoy and Dr. DaQuan Bashir. Welcome, gentlemen, to the roundtable.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So before I get into your bios, we always like to know who is in the virtual room. And I know, Emily, you're there on the live side. So if you can help us out, those of you online, how do you identify per gender, female, male, non-binary, or you prefer not to say? It looks like 50-50. 50-50 online. What does it look like? Oh, just changed. Okay, so we are overwhelmingly male online. What does it look like in the room there?
Me and a lovely gentleman here.
50-50. Close. So the second question, how do you identify as a student, parent, educator, interested community member? We have a student with us. And then we're split between educator and interested community member. Moving on to the next question. Do you identify as an education-focused entrepreneur? We refer to as an edupreneur. 50-50 again with the edupreneur. What about in the room there? Is the gentleman with you an edupreneur? Raise your hand if you are, and Emily will let us know.
I would say we got two no's over here, but we may be murder.
So one of the things we definitely want to touch on today is how can the community support the initiatives of Dr. Bashir and Beau? So the next question, there are two left. Is computer science taught at your local public high school district or public school district? You may not know, and that's okay. So we're 50% yes, and then 50% unsure. And the last question, is cybersecurity taught at your local public school district? Do you know? The majority says they're unsure, and I think that that aligns with the awareness around cybersecurity education. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our two panelists. Beau McCoy is the CEO and founder of Soul Academy, a new short format educational video platform that supports his mission to improve the quality and availability of learning. He went to Dartmouth College and worked as a software engineer before discovering his true passion for education. He was the first sales leader of Go Guardian, a very successful ed tech startup, and he is an evangelist for personalized and adaptive learning to achieve his goal of equity for all scholars. Beau, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you very much, Neferteri, and thank you for everyone that's here. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. As she said, yes, my background was in computer science. So when it comes to teaching computer science and cybersecurity, I get really excited. I remember being 15 years old when I wrote my first code is in a language called Turbo Pascal, which really isn't such a thing anymore. But I'll never forget that the things that I typed and it drew a line on the screen. It was like magic to me. It was an awakening. I was like, I can actually build. I always loved to draw. I wasn't a great artist. You know, I love to rap, but I'm just not a great rapper. I'll be quite honest with you. But I can write code and I can build amazing things. And that was something that spoke really nearly to me and kind of led me through the rest of my high school journey. You know, like a lot of 15-year-olds, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life. But fortunately, I found this computer science thing. I went on to a great school and it afforded me a fantastic career. A career where I got to build incredible products for Microsoft and Google and amazing companies like Qualcomm. But when I was in 2015, I fell in love with working in education. I joined a very early stage startup. It was just a few of us working from my boss's living room, literally. Now that company, 6 years later, is worth over $1 billion. So if you're thinking about getting into computer science, this is the opportunity that's ahead of you. And while I was there, I had a real problem with the way that people were just kind of subject to their zip code. See, in American education, depending on where your parents decide to live, a lot of things will be decided for you. And I didn't think that was really fair. Well, what if I don't like this teacher? Or what if I don't like what they're talking about? Why am I just completely bound? And conversely, why is the school completely bound not to be able to offer lots of amazing different takes on things from different cultural perspectives, simply because they can't find an African-American teacher or a Latinx teacher, an LGBTQ plus teacher in their community to teach about history because for whatever reason they can't hire. I had a problem with that when I could pick up my cell phone and find any of these people on YouTube or TikTok or something like that. And I knew that one day I was going to do something about it, but really you can't physically move people from one place to another that easily the way that you can online. I said, one day there's going to be enough learning online where we can connect everyone, people who look like me, people who look nothing like me, but they're teaching the same things, right? They're still teaching that 9th grade math. And I can hear from them the way that I want, and you can listen and hear from them the way that you want, because that's what exists on TikTok, right? You can find exactly what you want. And that was back in 2016 when I had this idea. And I was fortunate to take some time and travel primarily through the developing nations in different continents of Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. And that's when I really understood that my mission in life was to help bring better education to everyone in the world. Because what I learned in those travels was that really people are the same no matter where you go. But what's different is the opportunities that they have access to. And education is that opportunity. Education uplifts society. It can pull people out of bad situations and help them get into great situations. And that's what I want to do with the rest of the time that I have on this earth. So fast forward to the end of 2019, I was back in the United States in Los Angeles. I was working with a number of school districts across the county. And I had this epiphany moment. I'll never forget it. I was in a science classroom for a bunch of 9th graders in Compton, California. All 30 plus of the students were either African American or Latinx American students. There was an Asian American teacher talking, and he was giving his instruction. I looked at the class, and all 30 of them, every single one, was on their cell phone watching videos in that moment while the teacher was speaking. So I went to the teacher and said, how can you teach in this environment where all the kids are on the devices all the time? He said, well, you can't take the devices away from them because they will basically stop paying attention entirely, or you can't ask them to put it down because they just pick it right back up. So you've got to learn to adapt. And that was, I said, aha, this is what we need. We need a system where that teacher, instead of talking to a bunch of students who aren't listening, can meet the students where they are on their devices. And of course, we all know what happened in the spring of 2020, right? Everyone stopped doing the in-person education and started doing online education. That moment that I thought would come at some point in 2016, I never anticipated it would be this soon. I was thinking 2030, 2040, maybe, but it was literally in the drop of a hat, in an instant, we were forced to do everything differently. We went from a centralized model where people went to school and did everything to a decentralized model where people are at home. We went from doing things synchronously where students had to learn at a specific point of time to doing it asynchronously. Not everyone has a working internet connection. They can't just go to McDonald's, hop on Wi-Fi Wi-Fi and join your Zoom, you've got to make that content available for them later on. And we went from a group-based learning where everyone does the same thing to a lot more personalized learning. All this happened. It was magical in 2020. I know it was a rough year in a lot of ways, but when you think about how people's mentalities changed and what school leaders are now open to in terms of concepts, it couldn't be any better. And that's when I decided to create the company called Soul Academy. So we spent basically the last year building a platform that makes it dead simple for educators from all over the world to upload content for their students to see. Sick? You can watch the video. In class, you can watch the video. Are you tired of hearing from me? You can hear from another teacher who's going to talk to you about how to write recursive functions in C++. That's the idea behind Soul Academy. If you're a teacher, you can pre-record your lessons, make them available for the students to consume whenever they want, and more importantly, collaborate with your peers. I don't understand why there should be 5 computer science teachers in a high school all teaching the same exact lesson on the same day. Wouldn't it be more effective if they use that time to answer their students' questions, to build those relationships, and to really dig deep into finding what motivates and engages students? This is the idea behind Soul Academy. And if you're a student and you don't have that cybersecurity program in your school, why should you suffer? That's not your choice. You didn't choose that they wouldn't have a cybersecurity program. You can come to Soul Academy and find the educational content that you want from the instructor who speaks your language, who matches your culture, or you just dig them for whatever reason. They have some kind of vibe that you're into. So that's the idea behind our platform. We're a brand new company. And I have to tell you, I've been reading a ton about the rise of gaming and NFTs and cryptocurrencies. And this is the world. I have a 6-year-old child who lives next door to me, and all he ever talks to me about is Roblox. When he gets older, all he's going to want to do is gaming and NFTs. So if you haven't thought about getting into computer science, if you haven't thought about getting into cybersecurity, I strongly encourage you, you can come to Soul Academy or wherever you can find the content. At least make yourself familiar with it, because it's going to grow so fast that there's an area that you will enjoy. There's going to be a game or a program. There's going to be something that interests you. And not only will you be able to learn about it and create it, but it can be your career. There are so many jobs. I estimate that probably 90% of the jobs that students, young people today, will have in the future, 10, 15 years from now, do not exist today, because they haven't been created, because they're going to be part of this metaverse. And this is what I want all students to start learning about. And that's the kind of content that you can find on Soul Academy. We're just getting started. We have a number of schools there in Philadelphia where teachers are uploading videos and sharing them with their students, with other teachers in their school, and then across the districts. And I'm super happy to be here and happy to take any questions about that. I think that was my time.
Thank you, Beau, bringing a better educational experience to the world. I heard that throughout your talk. Thank you for sharing. If you have a question, a thought, a concern for Beau, feel free to drop it in the chat and we'll make sure that we pose that to him. Another person working to bring better education to the world is DaQuan Bashir. He's a computer science education advocate who is committed to bringing exposure and opportunity to students in underserved communities in the area of mathematics and computer science. As a first-generation college student, Bashir received a dual undergraduate degree in computer science from Rutgers University, Newark, and the New Jersey Institute of Technology. His master's is in higher education administration from Walden University and his doctorate of education from St. Peter's University. As the regional manager specialist for New Jersey and Pennsylvania for the Microsoft Philanthropies Technology, Education, and Literacy in Schools program, Bashir is currently leading the effort to expand TEALS into the city of Philadelphia. Bashir, once again, welcome to the roundtable. You're on mute.
I did that myself. I apologize. Thank you so much. That was really good. I appreciate it. That was a really good introduction. So yes, my name is Dr. DaQuan Bashir. I am from Trenton, New Jersey, born and raised. And I'll start like this. My experience with computer science didn't start until I got into college. I was a part of the community that I'm trying to serve right now, where we didn't have opportunities such as coding and stuff like that in high school. So once I decided that I was going to study computer science in college, and getting exposed to this whole new thing on such a different level, I struggled my first 2 years in college, studying computer science. And through my struggles and being able to persevere, instead of going into the industry, I was more passionate about going into education just because of my experiences. And I did not want students to experience what I experienced in struggling in college and having every day be, will this be the day that I drop out because I don't understand, right? So I said, okay, I'm going to make a difference. First, I decided to go into teaching and was teaching mathematics and computer science at various high schools here in New Jersey, in Trenton, New Jersey, where I'm from, and also in Newark, New Jersey, where I currently reside. From there, I seen that, okay, this is great. I can reach all of these students here in this class, but I would like my reach to be a bit broader and expand it somehow. So doing some nonprofit work here and there, I met someone from Microsoft and they was like, hey, we have this program, you would be great for it. And I came aboard and it's been great ever since. In working with the Microsoft Philanthropies TEALS program, I have been able to reach more students through the help of the program, educate more teachers in computer science, and talk to some really cool individuals who are doing tons of things in the computer science field. So what is a Microsoft Philanthropies TEALS program? What we do is we talk to the folks in the industry doing all of the computer science work, and we ask them to volunteer some of their time to work with teachers and students to create more rigorous and robust computer science learning experiences in the classroom. One of the major barriers of computer science and of offering computer science to students in high schools is there's no one who really is educated in computer science and can teach it. So a way to surmount that barrier is by partnering a really strong teacher with a computer science expert and having that expert, kind of work with that teacher throughout the entire school year. We like to call it an embedded year-long computer science professional development for that teacher. And also, as the teacher is learning all of these various concepts of computer science, the students are also able to interact with the volunteer that's in the room, or virtually, because we support virtually as well. And they're receiving various tips about the real world, how computer science it can be translated in that aspect, and just bringing that real world field to the content that the students are learning, so that they can see that it's worthwhile and it's not just another thing that they have to learn, but really putting some meat and potatoes to the subject so that students can enjoy it more. With this, we see that Philadelphia is definitely a place where we would want to expand, and I'm leading that expansion for the 22-23 school year, next school year. And we're looking for at least 5 schools just to start out with, but I'm sure we can definitely grow more after that school year. And it's really just to make sure that we are continuing to support teachers, continuing to support students in the growing efforts of computer science and computer science education. With the changing, ever-changing landscape of computer science and computer science education in New Jersey and in Pennsylvania, it will be a great thing to have the TEALS program work with teachers, work with students. And if you have any questions, I'm going to be sure to leave all of my contact information so we can do a more formal and more of a deeper dive into what the TEALS program is and how we operate.
Bashir, thank you. If you have questions for Bashir, please drop them in the chat. Emily, if there's anyone in the room that has a question for Bashir, please let me know. Oh, Jimmy.
Hey, Neferteri. Hey, Dr. Bashir. Excited about the work that you're doing and such an impact. Question for you. Have you connected with Hope Works Camden?
I tried to connect with Hope Works Camden. I've tried to connect with a number of schools in Camden as well. And it just didn't work out too well. You know, and
Well,
some lines got
I
kind
got
of
a good
dropped.
connect.
So
Me and the executive director are very good friends, and I'm a mentor for their program. So let me make that introduction for you. But I think it aligns really well with your program and what you're doing, and I think he can definitely. His name is Dan. Can definitely support you in your efforts and get into those schools you're looking to get into.
that sounds great. Yes, let's definitely connect
right,
so that we can continue the conversation.
I got you, fam.
Appreciate it.
So I don't think it would hurt at all to introduce you to some of the people that are in the room. Bashir, I think it would be advantageous. Offline, you met Steve, so that connection has already been made. I see Nico has joined us. Are you here on site, Nico? So then your audio is probably funny. Let's see.
I just cut off.
Okay, it looks like Emily's going to provide you with the mic. So I know there are seven standards with AP Computer Science that are focused on information, network security, or cybersecurity. And this is an individual that definitely could support those seven standards. So Nico, meet Dr. Bashir.
Hey, how you doing, Dr. Bashir? As I listen to you explain all the amazing things that you're seeking to move into the different educational spaces, I was thinking about a lot of ways that we could perhaps work together. As I'm more in the spaces of solving even the educational soul that went on prior to you, because I have a digital platform that might be able to enable success across both different entities. But with these specifically, I'd be really interested in hearing how offline we can like work together to expand your thought and expand your program so that you're no longer in the boundary of a brick and mortar, but able to expand into virtual spaces as well.
I was concentrating on that. Did you catch it all, Bashir?
Yeah, I did. Thank you. And thank you so much, Nico. I really appreciate it. I would definitely love to connect as well. I think any connection in this space serves for not only great conversation, but for some great things to happen in terms of collaboration. So I would definitely love to connect with you as well.
Amazing. I look forward to speaking with you. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you.
So what I will say is that in this space, in this community, I work to be that hyper networker that connects people together, that ensures that introductions are made. It's always easier when I know what you need. It's always easier when I know where your pain points lie, and I can identify people or resources that could help alleviate or minimize that. So Dr. Bashir, what challenges are you faced with that prevent absolute success? Well, I guess first, what is success in your mind with the expansion of your program? And then let's talk about what the pain points are. And then Beau, will come to you.
That's a very good question. I think if we're looking at it, true success will be students feeling like they've been successful in whatever computer science class that they're in. And you know, for that to happen, we need to take a step back and then look at the success of what we call the teaching team. That's the teacher plus the volunteer combined. We call that a teaching team. The communication and how does the teacher feel in terms of their content knowledge or ability to teach computer science. If they feel successful, if they feel like they've actually learned something over the school year through the help of the volunteer, that's also in that realm of success for me. And then, you know, to take a further step back and saying that, you know, there was at least five schools in the Philadelphia area, looking particularly at South Philadelphia, Center City, North Philadelphia, and Northeast, just because of travel and how close they are to New Jersey, and then kind of spanning westward. If there's five schools in those areas that say, hey, you know, we believe in the Microsoft Philanthropy Skills program. We think what you all are trying to do is great, and we want you at our school. That's success. And then, you know, making sure that there are volunteers who are willing to spend just 2 hours of their time a week to support a teacher and students in the classroom, whether it be in person or virtually, through whatever platform that the school is using. We try to fold ourselves into whatever the school is doing and support whatever computer science class that they want to offer to their students. So having those 5 schools, ultimately that's success. And then, you know, just building on that plan for the future. So it would be firstly getting those 5 schools, getting the teachers who are committed to being the lead teacher and part of the teaching team, getting those volunteers, having them work together, and I'm alongside them the entire time. And then, you know, at the end of the school year, the students had a good experience, and they learned something in their whether it be intro, APCSP, or APCSA.
Beautiful. Pain points.
Not knowing the full landscape of computer science as it stands right now in the city of Philadelphia. I've been doing a bunch of research, but you know, you can only learn so much through research without, you know, really talking to the people. So with the help of you, and thank you so much, you've been super helpful thus far, just being able to talk to more folks about what they need, how they view computer science, and you know, telling other people what we offer.
Very good. Very good. If anything else comes up during this conversation, you know, feel free to throw it in there. Beau, what
Yeah,
success,
absolutely. Thank you.
what success look like?
Yeah.
And what,
Success for me is pretty simple. That like right now, when I talk with teachers, I can only imagine with computer science, probably even lower. They tell me engagement is very low, right? They tell me there's a lot of kids who are very disengaged. They're showing up to school hoodie on, you know, head down. And so each time one of those young people becomes excited about learning, that's our mission, right? That's what we're really trying to accomplish. And how we get there is by finding teachers who are exciting. You know, everyone is afraid of being on camera. Like, I get it, but you've got to get over it because this is the way that the young people communicate. And so what I need, you know, success in this instance looks like a few teachers talking about computer science. We prefer that they be BIPOC because they're traditionally very underrepresented. They don't have to be. We prefer that they are, who get together and make some videos for students across the entirety of Pennsylvania and all across the United States to learn the basics of computer science. What is a for loop, right? What is a variable? How do we store data? Any of these things. I think if more students had access to that content, they would definitely be more interested in learning about computer science. And once that joy of learning is there, that intrinsic motivation, they'll go find the content. So that's what success looks like for me. And the pain point, it's the same thing. It's the fear of the camera. The scariest thing in the world is the red circle button that's on your iPhone. It says record, right? Everyone is afraid of seeing themselves and hearing themselves and how they sound in video. But, you know, this younger generation, that's all they know, right? They know watching YouTube. And so it's conquering that fear and taking the journey, taking that leap into the metaverse of creating content and being a creator, not just a consumer of content.
thank you. And you've used metaverse 2, maybe 3 times. So I want to drill down in that a little bit because there are some terms that are starting to be used more frequently. So people are starting to talk about blockchain more. They're talking about NFTs. You mentioned that. Gaming and the metaverse. Help us understand how you see those things as they relate to computer science education.
Yeah, well, put it to you this way. My mother just came out here from New York and she brought a box of baseball cards that I had from 1980s something, right? And those are part of the traditional universe. They're physical cards. Now you can go online, you can buy virtual versions of those cards. Some people think that's crazy. Why would I want a digital baseball card? It's not worth any money, but it is. And that's what this concept of the metaverse is. It's a combination of the physical world and the virtual world, and that things in that virtual world are just as real or just as important or valuable as things in the physical world. And right now there's kind of a delineation between the two, between the physical and the virtual. But in the very near future, and for a lot of people, the metaverse is everything that you see in existence, whether it's a physical asset or a digital asset. And if you aren't really planning about your life in the metaverse, you might miss some great opportunities to establish some things that will be very beneficial for yourself. So that's why I always encourage people. That's why I bring it up. This VR, AR revolution is here. It's happening very, very fast. So learn about it, get on board, and find what works for you inside of it.
Thank you. And Bashir, I know you align with the curriculum that a school has in place, and I can't imagine they're bleeding edge with the metaverse or blockchain technology per se. What are you seeing, or what are you hearing about some of the more these newer age technologies that will help attract teachers and students?
Yeah, so there has been a huge uptick in teachers just inquiring about, hey, what is TILS doing in regards to cybersecurity? How can we get a cybersecurity course and a volunteer to help support our school? Because that's what we really want, and stuff like that. So we have volunteers who support cybersecurity courses. We have a certain number of cybersecurity courses that we support. And it's really just up to what the school selects. We try not to tell them what to pick or tell them what to choose, but really, as I said before, kind of fold ourselves into what they are doing, so that the transition of bringing us in is as easy and as smooth as possible, for not only the administration, but for the teacher and for the students. So to your question, I think the main thing now is not just, okay, some computer science courses here, but it's also, we're thinking about cybersecurity. We want to expand our program to include that. Can you assist? So those are the conversations that I'm having now.
Beautiful, beautiful. I just want to ask about your thoughts about how we have been fast-tracked. And Beau said this. He had talked about his technology and how he thought it would be upwards of a decade from now that we would have so much online learning, asymmetric, symmetric, virtual learning. Where can we go quickly if we go together? If we work as a community to expand computer science education, adopt cybersecurity education, where can we go? Dr. Bashir, if you would start.
It's a very good question. I think there's so many avenues and so many ways that you can actually take this question. I think the very first thing, if we're talking about going together, would be having more teachers who feel comfortable in their ability to teach computer science or cybersecurity, for that matter. One of the main hesitations for a school, for a teacher to do either of these courses is because they do not know it or they don't feel comfortable with teaching it. And that's why we combine that industry expert with the teacher, so that you have someone there. Essentially, it's training wheels, right? You have someone there who's explaining these concepts to you. They're in person or virtual, and they're your immediate contact when you have a question. Instead of having to spend hours upon hours searching it online to make sure that your understanding is correct. So making sure that we have more educated teachers, more teachers that feel comfortable in their ability to teach these subjects will be the first place we can go. Or I wouldn't say first, it will be one of the places that we can go. Another place we can go is having more students who want to study these things when they come out of high school. If they have some type of aversion to it, or they just don't enjoy it. What I've seen is the classes that have those volunteers, and we try our best to place volunteers who look like the students that they'll be working with in the same courses. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, in terms of getting that specific volunteer. But even in those classes that don't have the volunteer that matches the demographics of the class in terms of the students, they still see it as, they still view the class as being more worthwhile than the class that doesn't have a volunteer, just because they had somebody who was talking to them about the real world aspects of computer science and cybersecurity, and how you can apply not only what you're learning here that might seem so abstract, but actually apply it later on in the future. Or even if you really were passionate about an idea and you wanted to build that app, or, you know, whatever the case may be, applying it right now. So, you know, having more students who are passionate about it, more students who want to learn about it in the future, those are like the two primary directions that we want to go in. And then last but not least, just clearing some more roadblocks for administrators that want to bring these programs, these courses into their schools. You know, having TEALs as a way to kind of clear that as well would be another way that we can definitely go if we all went together.
Beautiful. And there's a question in the chat about aversion that students have, and if you would speak to the roadblocks that administrators have, like I'd be interested to know what those are.
Yeah, so that's a very good one. Yes, so math would be a slight aversion in terms of computer science, but also just because they've never seen it before. Or, you know, they've seen some stereotypical kind of white guy jamming away on the computer in a show or a TV, on TV or movie or something, and they think that's not me. They don't see themselves in that position, in that field. So that's kind of where the aversion comes from. And I teach computer science now. So one of the things I've been telling my students, and I've told them from the very first beginning of school, is it's okay to make mistakes. You're not going to immediately understand some of this stuff. If you understand it right away, that is great. But if you don't, that's okay too, because we're going to continue to move into this content and make sure that you understand it. And if you have questions, now is the time to ask. We want to make mistakes here so we don't make them later. You know, and that comparison of computer science almost being like a foreign language is very true. So, you know, just saying like, hey, this is going to take time. This is not something that you're not going to understand all of it overnight, right? And it's the same that with anything. And I was talking to someone, they made this comparison, like students, they study math throughout their entire time in school. You know, New Jersey just started doing things with computer science, as I'm sure Pennsylvania has really started to kind of ramping up around computer science as well. So that's more students who've never seen it before, and it's going to be their first time in high school, versus, you know, if they already kind of know what to expect with math and numbers and stuff like that. So that's, in my opinion and what I've seen, that's where that aversion comes from. Number one, just not really being exposed to it, and it being something different, and it kind of being similar to learning a foreign language. So that's what I've seen.
There's a huge amount of cultural, of racial, and gender bias in computer science programs, you know, just quite honestly. You know, at Dartmouth College, the amount of students who look like me are very low. In my professional career and working with, you know, these mega giant Amazon, Microsoft, you don't see a whole lot of people who look like me. You don't see, quite honestly, I'm just gonna say, you don't see a lot of female people in these jobs. And I don't know why that exists in the United States, but what we can accomplish is through collaboration is equity. Right? By introducing these concepts to every student, we can affect things at a macro level, but also in a micro level. I mean, what if a student's parents just tell them, no, you can't do this. This is not for you. Is that fair? They might believe that, but if they see they have access to the content, now they can do it on their own. And I'll make a parallel why I'm so bullish. I think things can change very quickly. Just a few years ago, the amount of people who were creating videos was very low because it was hard. You had to get a camera, you had to know how to edit, you had to be able to the audio engineering and all this sorts of things. Well, the amount of creators just from the year 2019 to 2020 grew by a factor of more than 15x, right? More than 15x. Why is that? It's because of TikTok. TikTok made it really easy for you to be a consumer of content, but also a creator of content And that's what I'm so excited about in the realm of computer science as well. See, all these kids are playing games. They're all on Roblox, they're all on Minecraft, they're all on Fortnite and all these things. They don't realize that they can create those same games, right? They can write the same code. And as advances happen in the areas of no code and the concepts that Dr. Bashir is talking about, it's going to become a lot more accessible for everyone, regardless of what you look like or what your background, to be a coder, right? To learn code. And the beauty of it is like learning a foreign language, you don't even need to know that much of the language anymore to be able to write really effective code, to at least build something that you can see run. That's this whole no code concept. And so I know that this revolution, it's happening. I've seen it happen in terms of video creation, but we're also seeing it in terms of program creation, in terms of software creation as well.
I'm on board. I'm absolutely on board. And you mentioned equity through collaboration. And we don't always have control over who we collaborate with when we work for corporate America, when we work for institutions. But as education-focused entrepreneurs, we absolutely do. When we wear that hat, we call our own shots. We're also responsible for all of that, right? So I'm hearing exposure, awareness as well. I'd like to look at the incentives. And Nico put something in the chat about engaging students. What was the question, Nico? You said, how do we keep the students motivated? That was the first question.
I would say that, you know, I read a poll that said 70% of the rising seniors in 2021, they all want the same job. It's to be an influencer, right? Why is that? Why do they all want to be influencers? Number one, they know they can get paid. Number two, they know they could do it right now. And there's a game called Axiom Infinity. It's this huge thing. There's over 50 million players in the Philippines alone of this game. Why is that? Because it's a great economic opportunity for them that's readily accessible to them 24 hours a day, that all they've got to do is literally turn on their computer and they could start earning money. And so as soon as that connection happens, that they can actually turn this into a career, regardless of, you know, how old they are, with their parents' consent, of course. That's when I think whatever the gaps were before, when they realize this can put money in their pocket, when they realize it can lift their family out of a disadvantageous situation, and it can happen in a matter of days or weeks or months, I think that's really going to close whatever gaps exist. And I've seen this with Axie Infinity. If you don't know about it, Google Axie Infinity Philippines and see what's happening right now over there. It's completely revolutionized their society.
I think you're muted.
Me? I was saying I'm not familiar, but I would definitely take a look. Were you going to chime in, Bashir?
I was, and that's a great point, Beau. And I actually I do this in my classroom, right? I talk about the money incentive that exists right now, you know, for students who are you know, motivated and really want to study this and really want to you know, dig into computer science. You can literally make money right now, right? And for my classes, students love money, so that's the approach I always take from the beginning. You know, but then also, you know, you now have the power to create something of your own, you know, and interfuse and interject your personality into whatever you're creating, whether it be an app or a website or whatever the case may be. It's coming from you, is something that you can be proud of, and it's something that you can show the world, right? So, you know, it's definitely that money aspect, but then, you know, you have something that you can put out into the world that people can see and appreciate as well.
So what's interesting is I'm in a phone booth. If you've been to Venture Cafe, I'm in this soundproof phone booth, and I'm looking at the the Brady Bunch style view of the room, and I'm like, where do I fall in this? Where do I sit in this network of individuals? You said it, Bashir. You can make money doing this, kids. The money's out there. So what I want to find out is how to tell them the money's right here and get them to respond to the stimuli, get them to act, show them that it's accessible to them and I'm not sending them out there. but somehow this innovation community can support the fostering of their education, at least in computer science and cybersecurity education. So Steve, are you unmuting to share, or am I reading your comment?
You are reading my comment. I was actually still muted.
Okay, I can read your comment. So Stephen,
Oh, do you want me to read it? I can read it.
please.
Okay. So just regarding the previous discourse about keeping students motivated, I'm curious because in my experience, I haven't seen a lack of motivation from students. I haven't seen students who weren't interested in being successful or doing computer science. What I've seen is schools that either don't understand the importance of it or don't have the funding to provide to new computer science programs. So I don't necessarily see a correlation between younger people and a lack of motivation. What I see is a lack of emphasis on why they should be motivated to learn computer science and how we can provide that to them. So how do we convince educational institutions that this is important and that they need to put emphasis on this?
I would say, if the educational leader cares about the preparation for this young person's later life, there's overwhelming, compelling evidence out there that the vast majority of jobs that these young people will have when they become adults do not exist today. They are not things that we're thinking about or that our parents do or that we do. They are completely new jobs that will be in this virtual space, in the metaverse. You're seeing all these new careers being built around NFTs today, October 14th, 2021. There are new jobs that are being created today related to NFTs and online gaming that did not exist yesterday, October 13th. And so you fast forward 10 years, they need to have these skills to be able to get a great career in the world that they'll be living in when they turn 18. It's not the traditional things like that it's not the doctor, the lawyer, and all those kind of services. Not that they won't exist, but there's so much new opportunity. So it's not about training people for things today. It's about building the tools that they need so that they'll be ready to capitalize on opportunities for the future.
I think you're right, Beau. But I will agree with Steve in saying, is that a metric of success for school leaders? Are they evaluated on if this young person is prepared for the job of 2030? And I would say the answer is no. So where's the incentive that we can provide them with? Bashir, I see you unmuted.
So one of the incentives that the Microsoft philanthropy is not really an incentive, but a way to clear another barrier in terms of financial. The services that we offer are completely free of charge, right? We just want to make sure that we are growing computer science education wherever we can. And, the main thing is making sure that there is a teacher who is willing to be a part of the computer science program. And even if we're thinking about, okay, this class wants to start an intro, the school, wants to start an intro, we have curriculum that we built based off of a College Board approved curriculum that we've kind of simplified so that it can be placed in an intro course. For those students, it works great. It's online, so they don't have to worry about, having access to like machines that need to run some IDEs and stuff like that. But because it's online based, they can always use it, as long as they have internet. And we have that curriculum also offering to them free of charge. And this is for intro course and for an APCSA course that we have curriculum for as well. We've seen that, that is a barrier in terms of cost. To run a program, to start up a program, to Steve's question. So we want to try to clear that barrier as well, and make it easier for schools to say yes versus saying no. And at the end of the day, those school leaders, they're going to be held accountable for how their students are doing. What classes are they offering in terms of different legislation and policies that are being made and passed at the various boards of education. The New Jersey, speaking from experience, New Jersey passed a a law that says every high school has to at least offer computer science. And that was 2 years ago. PA doesn't have that law just yet, but it's coming. So, whatever we can do to try to make it easier for administrators to offer these courses to students, we are trying to do on our end.
And you bring up a really good point, and I think, what is the incentive? Well, hopefully, maybe you could force it from the college level down. Maybe colleges will start to have, computer science training as part of their requirement to get in. And I know a lot of employers like Google, you don't even need to have a college degree if you've got a degree or you can demonstrate proficiency in computer science. So hopefully, between the professional community and the higher education community, that can apply the pressure that's needed for the school leaders and the incentive that they need to incorporate computer science as core to their curriculum. Quite honestly, I think it's, I just have a newborn son, and one of the very first things he's going to understand, if he wants to play a game, he has to understand how that game is built, right? And it starts from there. I think from early childhood, we should help children understand what computer science is, because it's going to be touching literally every aspect of their life. There's literally nothing that they're going to do that doesn't involve an Internet of Things device or some kind of intelligence, right? Some kind of artificial intelligence. So it's not a nice to have, it's an absolute must have to me.
And that's why it's so important when we start talking about diversity in this space, because some of us will just be consumers, right? And so Nico has something to share, and then Brian.
All right. Is that okay for me to take my first?
Sure, work hard.
All right, great. All right. Here's my face. All right. So as I hear, I keep hearing the term computer science being introduced. And while I understand the foundational role that it plays with the development of emerging technologies and such, I think that one way that we might be able to get at it, or perhaps the reason why there's less attention being paid for computer science, is because computer science, while its foundational requirements or learning modules are useful, most people are focusing on this term called cyber, right? So while those of us inside of the talk may understand that we can interchangeably, we kind of get like where the line of demarcation ends and begins with the verbiage that's assigned to things. I think that a way that you could incentivize or motivate, the organizations at play might be toward just changing the rhetoric that we're using to describe the learning atmosphere. Because computer science, to me, as a 40-plus-year-old dude, computer science has been around for a while, right? So we don't need more computer science. As a matter of fact, we've been successful in establishing that inside of curriculum, quote unquote. Cyber is brand new, but if you come from the field as a professional, you understand that cyber is the new computer side rapper, so to speak. So that's what I was thinking as you all were discussing and potentially coming up with ways to get people motivated. Besides that financial bit of, hey, yeah, you can make some money, kids. Money is a really great motivator, but I think, from being in the scene, from, different hacker environments, that people are, okay. So when we, just being in the environment of people who like pen test and hack and stuff like that, I think that identification of skill sets is pretty nuanced. So you're not gonna necessarily find the world's greatest hackers, or people who can be successful and swim in the realm that we're trying to get them to, if we can't identify those quirkinesses, or like you were bringing up, hey, this kid loves Fortnite, Well, is he creating his own skins? I mean, like that's something real simple that you can walk people into, but if you don't know as an educator how low the bar or how high the task is, pedagogically, you're gonna stumble, which then tends to be a little bit more problematic as far as furthering the interest of not only other students, but I imagine other faculty members. I'm sorry if I was too long-winded.
You bring up a great point because it's all about the messaging, right? It's like before, when I learned how to code, it was all math based. Like you had to take calculus. It went hand in hand with C++. You had to understand how to manage memory. In the 2000s, you saw a shift to coding, right? Everything was coding boot camps. It's still computer science, but no one talked about it. Why? Because there was a lot more tools. The Microsoft .NET framework made coding a lot easier, a lot more accessible for someone like me. That's how I was brought up. Well, now we're in an era where you don't actually even need to code to write computer programs, right? There's WYSIWYG editors that allow you to create functions just by dragging and dropping things. How amazing is that? And then it does, the routine that you want. And so what I'm hoping, and I'm really glad you brought this up, is that this computer science coding, the next evolution is just getting caught up in the creator wave, right? Everyone wants to be a creator. Being a creator is the coolest thing, the only thing that high school students care about. And I hope that we can help them see that part of creation is creating computer programs, right? And creating software, creating games is part of being a creator, right? It's not just a video and influencer or whatever, but it's also, making code, right? Making software run.
And to further that point, just from the school standpoint, it doesn't matter what you call the class. You can, one of the schools that we're a partner with now, they said they weren't getting much reception for the computer science class just because it was called Computer Science 1. They changed the coding of the class to Intro to Design, and they filled the class in the first 2 weeks of registration. So just changing the name of the class is, something that can happen to spur interest in what's happening for that particular class. Another thing that, when we're talking to leaders, administrators and stuff like that, and we're talking about computer science, right? The main thing I want to do always is to let them know that, okay, yeah, we're saying computer science in this big thing, but really, what is computer science? It is making sure that students can effectively solve complex tasks, right? Problem solving, and handle these things, and do whatever task that is being directed of them to do. So making sure that they are able to solve problems. With that, if we can make sure that, we have an educator on board and we have this industry partner that we are going to bring in your classroom to work together so that your students are getting better at solving problems, then they can have that skill, that now transferable skill, and apply that anywhere, right? Because now we're talking about the problem solving process and, how that looks and how that's created. And the students can use that in any course that they have. So yeah, I definitely agree, in talking about the messaging of computer science. And we can definitely change that, and for the TEALS program in particular, that's why I exist. That's kind of part of my role, to then talk to administrators and guidance counselors and really help them see and understand why it's so important, but also kind of get rid of some of the jargon that exists. Because when I have these conversations with folks, I need to remember that I have expert bias as well, being someone who's studied the subject, but also teaches it. But that kind of then puts me in a unique position to where I can then explain it so that hopefully they can understand it as well.
So I want to thank you all. We've bumped up on time. For me, I am often in conversation with leaders in the region who are just excited about all of the opportunity that is emerging economically in our region. And in every area, in every sector, one, computers are going to touch it. Computer science is going to be involved. Cybersecurity is going to be necessary, but we're also going to need a future workforce. Some of these babies are in kindergarten, 5th grade, 8th grade right now, and we're going to need them to be prepared, right, to take that baton from us. So I am committing to support the expansion of computer science education in our region, more specifically cybersecurity education. And I am hoping that you will join me in doing so. Brian, I do not want to close this session without letting you speak your piece as an educated computer scientist and an experienced educator. If you're still there, will you unmute your mic and share your thought before we close?
Yes, I'm still here. For whatever reason, my video couldn't start, but I apologize. Good afternoon to everyone. All right, back. So the comments that I have, being a computer science holder and then also being a STEM educator, what I realized walking into the classroom is that students had to be able to see computer science in their own lives. And computer science does not look like the way that it sounds, right? When we talk about, you know, computer science in the art field, me trying to convince one of my friends who draws his art to add a tablet to that, right? What does computer science look like in the lives of the students? How can they make computer science their own thing? Where then now they can go in somebody else's life and identify, hey, that's computer science too, but it's not a computer, right? It may not necessarily be a code or a program. So that's more so what I'm getting at when I think about how do we get more young people involved in the field of computer science. Definitely changing the language. It's a rebranding. It's the same thing that goes on in the video game industry. The reason why they create certain types of combos is to ease casual gamers into the industry so they don't feel isolated by people who have honed their skills their entire lives playing video games. It essentially it makes a middle ground for the experienced and unexperienced. And that's what I would be going for, making computer science something that they can identify in their own life. That's it.
Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
So I'm taking away from this session with me, exposure, awareness, and incentives, and equity through collaboration. Dr. Bashir and Beau, thank you so much for joining us today. Next month, we're going to take a look at building out the workforce pipeline from K to internship. And I hope that you'll join us at the Edupreneur Roundtable, where we design to disrupt and reimagine education. Thank you. Have a good one.